So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our roundtable discussion on online degrees. My name is Ishan Kader, and I am a senior higher education consultant in the Times Higher Education Consultancy Division. And today I'm also joined by my colleague Liz Shepherd, who is the Managing Director of the Consultancy Division. So I'm going to be chairing today's sessions. I do have a few slides, just a few to share about today's discussion in terms of setting the structure for today. But before that, just a few housekeeping rules. Obviously, we are doing this session online, and there may be issues with internet connectivity. So if for any reason you are disconnected, please do persevere and try to reconnect. And if you are finding any issues with bandwidth or connectivity, of course, feel free to turn your camera off if that helps. If I could also kindly ask if you've got any devices nearby or notifications, please just turn them to silent for the duration of the discussion. Secondly, during the discussion, if you would like to raise a point, please do use the hand signal, which can be found at the bottom of the screen. You can also just raise your hand to the screen if you want, because there's not that many of us at the moment, and hopefully I'll be able to see everyone. Equally, please feel free to use the chat function at any point of the discussion if there's something that you want to make, or if indeed you want to respond to any of the other points that any of the other delegates has made. So please use that chat function as well. And finally, I just ask your consent for this session to be recorded. It's not going to be shared beyond this group. It'll only be used by Liz and myself for the purposes of ensuring that all of our notes are accurate. So I hope that's okay with everyone. Okay, I've got some nods there, so I'm just going to move on. So I will quickly share my screen. And the one thing there is. Okay, I hope you can see that. So for today's discussion, I'm just going to quickly outline the overall purpose of today's discussions, and then we're going to go around the online room and have quick introductions to each of us. We're then going to define what we mean by online degrees and understand some of the key assumptions that we are working with before we then open up to the floor and move to our discussion. So in terms of the overall purpose of the session, really why we wanted to do this is that, as everyone here has experienced, during the COVID pandemic, people really had no choice but to move to online learning. And it was accelerated during this process. There are increasing numbers of online degrees offered by institutions in both the MENA region and across the world. So we know from a variety of data sources that more students are undertaking online courses, and it may become a key way in which universities ultimately expand their capacity to deliver higher education to an ever greater number of students within your countries and beyond those borders as well. And research has also shown that rankings play an important part in how students make decisions about their study choice. We know that, of course, because Times Higher Education offer some of the most viable rankings in the world in terms of world university rankings, and of course our impact rankings as well. However, currently none of the rankings really capture the quality or outcomes of online degrees. So really the purpose of our session is to understand, firstly, how universities can ensure that online degrees are high quality, inclusive, and reach new audiences. And secondly, to understand what kind of outcomes and metrics can actually evaluate online degrees. And I think that's where we want to kind of direct the discussion today, is to really get your ideas about what it means to have a high quality and inclusive online degree and what kind of metrics we can then use to evaluate that. with perhaps the ultimate aim of building some kind of ranking about online degrees and offering the sector, students, as well as other universities, transparency on this area. So before we move to defining online degrees and moving to the discussion, I'd just like to give a chance for everyone to introduce themselves. I'm going to first start with Liz, and then I will move around the room as I can see it on my screen. So I'll start with you, Liz.
Thanks so much, Ishan. It's such a pleasure to meet everybody today. My name is Liz, and I work with Ishan at Times Higher Education. And we're really keen to understand from your perspective this really fascinating topic of online degrees. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Liz. And then if I can move to Yusra.
Good morning to colleagues in the UK, and good afternoon to colleagues on our side of the world. I'm really pleased to be here with you today. My name is Yusra Mazuki. I'm the president of the Royal University for Women here in Bahrain. I'm very excited. I'm actually very interested to see the direction of travel with this particular topic. It's something that is, it's coming, but we're, I guess, struggling in this part of the world in terms of the regulator developing trust in online degrees, and us as universities, as well as the recipients, the parents, the more mature students. I'm not so sure about the undergraduate students. I think they're fine with it all, but I think we've got to build those bridges a bit more with the more mature students. So yeah, I'm hoping to kind of really learn a lot and contribute. Thank you very much for having me.
Brilliant, thank you, Yusra. And please do correct me if I do get any pronunciations of the names wrong. So is it Michelle or Mikhail?
Yes, Michel Jalak. I'm director of the Antonine University in Lebanon. So thank you for inviting me. It is very curious to know about and to learn about this online degrees. It's our future, I think, in the higher education. So thank you. I'm curious to know more and more.
Thank you, Michelle. And if I can move to Aboud.
Hello, everybody. Nice also to see some popular faces, Prof. Yusra and the rest. Yes, I'm Aboud Al-Sawafi. I've been a vice chancellor for at least three universities in Oman. I'm now no longer vice chancellor, but I'm still very close to higher education. Thanks for the invitation, and I think this is a very important topic. I mean, at a very important time. It's coming. We all know it's coming, but we need to protect the students to select a university which offers credible online degrees. I mean, there's a lot of trust issues in this part of the world, as Professor said, and so look forward to benefiting more than contributing, probably. Thank you.
Many thank you, Aboud. And if I could move to Mahanad.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us to join this prestigious discussions and event. Definitely online or virtual learning is the futuristic of higher education. Still, there is some restrictions regarding the regulatory body here, or still assessment tool creation, content creation is a hot topic in higher education. I am so happy to discuss this topic with you. Again, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Mohammed. And last but not least, if I can ask Nicola to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. My name is Nicola Pittman. I'm the Managing Director of Kaplan Open Learning, and we actually work in partnership with the University of Essex and the University of Liverpool in the UK to deliver their online programmes. And we have a lot of students from the MENA region who are currently studying with us. So really interesting from my perspective to speak to all of you and get a different perspective on how online learning is recognised in a different region, and also put some perspective from my point of view and from how our MENA students actually study online currently.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nicola. And thank you all for introducing yourself. I'm sure we're going to have a very robust and interesting discussion today. So as I explained earlier on, we've broadly got 3 discussion points for this session, and I'm glad we've got actually almost 45 minutes for that. So it's going to be very interesting. The first thing, again, I'm just going to quickly share my screen and apologies for kind of going in and out of the share. But so the first thing really is about how we define online degrees and some of the basic assumptions that lie behind this discussion. So it'd be great to get your opinions on this first of all. So very quickly, first of all, for the purposes of discussion, we define an online degree as an accredited degree level program where students' sole engagement of teaching, learning and assessment are through online methods. Learning and assessment can be both synchronous and asynchronous, and learning materials may be live, recorded, or stored online. And ideally, there should be peer-to-peer collaboration between students involved as a part of the learning experience. So that's really reflecting the fact that in an offline or traditional degree, many students would be doing coursework with each other or just interacting with each other as a part of the learning, teaching and assessment and progress. So an online degree ideally should involve that as well, rather than students kind of sitting on their own, doing work on their own. And just in terms of some core assumptions that lie behind online degree programs. So online degrees can be developed by the university themselves, or they can also be developed in collaboration with an online program management company. Online degrees can be hosted directly by the university, or again through an online program management company, or indeed through a massive open online course or MOOC provider as well. So essentially the platform through which a student may access the online degree can be different. Online degrees may be purchased directly through the university, or again through the MOOC platform. However, any online degrees that will be in scope for this discussion must be validated and awarded by the university, and the students must receive a degree from the university itself. So essentially, no matter what the platform is, or indeed no matter who lays behind the development of the content and the learner management system and the user experience, ultimately that degree must have the same standing as the actual university degree and should be awarded by the university itself. So can I just check with you all whether that definition of online degrees and whether that the assumptions that lie behind it, whether you agree with that or whether within your experience there are any differences so far. And I should actually also welcome Mohammed to the discussion as well. I can see that you've just joined us. Welcome, Mohammed. We've actually just done a very quick round of introductions and we've moved into the discussion about how we define online degrees. So yes, can I open about anyone's opinion about online degrees and defining online degrees? Do you agree that it should be about being fully online in terms of the student experience, or do you have anything else from your experience?
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be with you. I was wondering if you could please share with us some of I'm sorry if I'm digressing because I just got in, some of the experiences learned in terms of the COVID crisis, the time where universities that were pursuing ranking. So how did they adapt to these things? How did they try and integrate some of the measures that they use with online teaching so that they have these measures and sustain them in a way that would keep the quality and at the same time preserve the quality of teaching in a way that does not impact ranking and the overall quality?
Thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, that's a really good point. And in fact, that is our very next discussion point, is about how universities ensure the quality of their online degrees. But just very quickly before we move to that, I just wanted to check about everyone's understanding of the definition of online degrees, if that's okay. And I think Yusra, maybe you were going to make a point.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, I think that seems like a fair definition. There's nothing set in stone, of course. I guess the one thing, everything else seems pretty clear. The one thing that I'm not so sure about is whether it has to be fully online or not. And at what point does it become an online degree and what point does it become hybrid? I don't know, is there a percentage at which, it tips over to becoming an online degree? That I'm not 100% clear on yet. I think we're all very clear in this idea of, yes, it's fully 100% online or it's fully face-to-face, but there's got to be some gray area. We know, we're academics, we work in gray areas. So there's got to be some overlap between, the two modes. And therefore that adds a layer of complexity. So I don't think we should completely rule out that doesn't, that isn't 100% online. We might, as an industry, as an academy, decide to, have some parameters around the hybrid. But maybe I'm just complicating matters. But that's just something that struck me as you were talking there, Isan. So I thought I would raise it. But other than that, to my...
It's a very important point, Yusra. We were actually in a roundtable yesterday, and there was an example of a fully online degree, but the student just had to do the very final exam because it was a state exam in a centre. So of course, you're essentially talking about 99.9% online and that 0.1. But I agree, absolutely. There's lots of hybrid models out there that need consideration as well. Nicola, were you going to make a point there?
It's very similar, just to get an understanding of what percentage would be classed as. Are we considering that would be included in the ranking, and whether or not you would consider an 80% online, 20% face-to-face program within that?
You see, the reason, Nicola, I brought this up was because sometimes having a percentage of face-to-face helps with the next point, which I know we're going to, which is the quality and ensuring the quality. So you've just given a very good example of it being a state exam. I can give you an example of needing to do a viva, for example, or needing to present a piece of work. It's not necessarily the delivery is going to be online. It may well be the assessment, or there comes a point when we need to do group work even within an online world. Yes, that can be done virtually, but sometimes it also has to be done face-to-face. So I think I can't put a number on it. I'd be lying if I told you I could. I'm not the expert, far from it. As I said, I'm here to learn, but I do think we need to have a little bit more flexibility in that definition. The word normally comes to mind here.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Yusra. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very important point. Just wanted to check with anyone else of the delegates, Michelle or Aboud or Mohammed or Mohammed.
Just a quick comment. I mean, because it's very particular in this part of one. We speak about higher education institutions, because I see here you said universities, and in Oman there are many colleges which give online. I mean, potentially would be giving online degrees. For making it generic as a higher education institution, maybe is the way to go.
Okay, thank you, Aboud. And can I quickly ask, in Oman, do those colleges have the right to award their own degree as well?
Well, yes, some colleges have the right to award their own degrees. Of course, it differs from, in Oman, we have 3 status of higher education institutions. Yes, still, which are colleges, and we have university colleges and universities. Universities can offer, of course, can award their own qualifications. University colleges have the potential, the possibility, if they go through some of the checks from the Ministry of Higher Education in Oman and also the Accreditation Council. And colleges normally just offer validated or franchised degrees.
Sure.
But the exceptions to what I've said.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aboud. And Mohammed, I just wanted to check with you, because you did mention there were some regulatory requirements as well in Bahrain. So that would be great to hear how that impacts how you define online degrees.
Thank you very much. I think online is the futuristic of higher education. Virtual learning is the futuristic, definitely. Before discuss, I would like to highlight 4 issues with the online. First, the assessment method, it is still, it is not in good position, social interactive, also the content creation. The content creation is very important because what they did in the COVID-19, that the shift faculty from face-to-face learning environment to the online learning is still the content and way of delivering material. Still, we need to revise it. Also, technical issue, infrastructure of IT is very important, not only for the university, for the whole country is very important. Broadband internet should be not limited, and so on. Still, to recognize any online degree or course, we need to get approval from our regulatory body. Still, they have aware about the degree, quality of degree, assessment method. They are not sure that the outcomes of online degree exactly similar to face-to-face. So we need to improve that the face-to-face and online is similar outcome, similar skills, and we can compete with others. So we need to work on to encourage our regulatory body to accept the online degree. Thank you.
On me, thank you very much, Mohammed. Yes, and just very finally, Michelle or Mohammed, do you have any any further contributions about defining online degrees?
Well, the discussion reminds me now to the debate that we have between the higher institutions, higher education institutions, and the ministry in Lebanon. We have this problem. There is some resistance from the ministry to give the permission for the online. This is why what Yusra said is true. How can we, and they are asking us, how can you manage if 30%, 40%, or 50%? We are asking more as higher education institutions. We are asking to have about 70% of online courses, but there is a lot of resistance from the ministry. So we have to take into consideration also the law and the rules and regulation. We have to help also our ministries to define better the online courses.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle. I think it's a very, very important point that both you and Mohammed have raised about the relationship with the ministry and how you take those discussions forward in terms of kind of recognition of the qualification as well. Just as an example, I did a large report for India this year, and India is going through a phase of transforming their regulation systems. They recognize their own online degrees from public universities, but they do not recognize foreign online degrees. So again, some complexity within the markets. Fantastic. So I think we'll move on to the next discussion point then. And I think, Mohammed, you really kicked that off with the points that you were making. And this is how we can think now about what universities can do to ensure that online degrees are high quality, inclusive, as well as how you can reach new audiences, whether that's within your own countries or in beyond the borders. So I wondered whether anyone would like to kick that discussion off about how we can ensure high quality and inclusiveness in the online programs. Yusra?
Yeah, I mean, the million-dollar question, this idea of inclusivity and the digital poverty, and for us, obviously, as a women's university, the challenges that women have in terms of career breaks and caring responsibilities, etc. I mean, it really is very, very different. And actually, I was at a Times Higher event. Must have been last month now, the Digital Universities, the MENA Digital Universities event, and there was a lot of talk about some really interesting initiatives taking place. I think this inclusivity is something that we will have to learn to deal with. it's a bit like access to traditional universities. They're actually not all that inclusive either. So how can we, deal with that? So I don't have any answers on that one, or at least I've got some ideas, but definitely no answers. But I think that the interesting thing, and probably the more pressing thing at the moment, is the quality thing and the managing of, or the assurance that we can achieve quality, whatever that may mean. By the way, there is some discussions to be had around, well, what does quality mean? Are we aiming? So just to kind of come back to Dr. Mohammed there, are we aiming to have the same results from an online education as we did from a face-to-face, or as we do from a face-to-face education? Is that the gold standard? Is that what we're aspiring to achieve? I don't know, actually, because if you speak to any industry partners, they'll tell you you're not sending us the right quality of product. The students aren't ready. So maybe this is a good opportunity to revise what we mean by quality and what we mean by graduates. What does it, these are all very big questions, I understand, but I don't think it's as simplistic as going through an exam and getting 70 to get a first and doing all that. That's just no longer viable. That's for the American system, getting a 90 and getting an A and all that. What does it actually tell you about the student? What does it tell you about the skills that they have gathered over the last year? And I'll just share a very small but very personal example for you. My daughter's just started her placement year here, and she's doing a full year placement, not a 2-month placement, and she's working in a think tank. And she's been with them for 2 months. She said to me, I have never, and she's quite a deep thinker, I don't think I've had as much learning and expansion of my brain, as she calls it, since I started to learning to read and write. So actually being in industry has helped her really move her learning along. She's done 2 years of law degree, so she's had enough of industry, of academia, to appreciate a law degree. But this 2 months in industry has just upped her learning significantly. So we've got a question, what is it we're trying to achieve in this online world? What skills are we trying to give them? Is it knowledge? Is it skills? Is it expertise? Is it thinking ability? What is it we're trying to achieve? But I'm erring on the side of it should be different to what we do on a face-to-face. And actually that might be an excellent way of differentiating. This is, the jungle of education. There's room for every type of tree, if you wanted an analogy. There'll be students who still want a face-to-face presence. There'll be students who would prefer an online. There'll be the vocational. So I just think we shouldn't box it into how can we make online education deliver exactly like what we do on traditional? Well, is that really what we want to do? So that's a question. I don't have an answer to it, but that's where what I'm thinking at the moment.
Thank you. No, thank you. That's a fantastic point. And I think the takeaway from that perhaps is actually this gives us an opportunity to rethink what quality actually means in terms of education, and particularly online. Before we move on, I'd just quickly like to welcome Islam. Hello, thank you for joining our discussion today. We are just discussing how we can think about what it means and how universities can evaluate quality and inclusivity in online learning. And very quickly, Nicola, did you want to make a point?
I was just going to mirror what Yusra said, which was if I look at because we actually have online students, and if I look at our online student demographics, they're completely different to what you would get in a standard university. So actually for us, the majority, something like 96%, are actually in work. So they're working full-time and they're studying part-time. And the reason that they're studying is different perhaps to the standard on-campus student that would be studying. And what they want from an outcome is also different. It's not necessarily about, as Yusra was saying, about that, first high grade. It's actually about the journey traveled. Some of these students just haven't had the opportunity or the financial support when they were younger to be able to study in this way. So being able to give them that opportunity to study and learn and, you know, get the knowledge and the skills and progress in their career is actually something that means more than getting a first in their degree. So I do think it is perhaps a different demographic of students that we're looking at, in which case perhaps we need to be looking at a different set of criteria to measure quality, like I said, such as the journey travelled as opposed to the total outcome. And from an inclusivity perspective, I mean, we have students from literally all over the world studying with us, and they learn from each other in group sessions and classrooms. You know, you've got students studying side by side who can because they're working, they're putting their real world experience into the qualifications. So the kind of learning and the level of learning it's just different to what you would see on campus.
Thank you, Nicola. And really interesting point. I think that speaks very much to the widening access and inclusivity agenda. Can I just very quickly follow up on that? When you're widening access and when there's, let's say, non-traditional groups of students coming in to study, how do you then ensure the quality and their outcomes? What's kind of needed for you to do that?
I mean, certainly from our perspective, we have to provide really high levels of student support. But I think that's something that's really important in online, because if you're not supporting those students, it can be a very lonely experience for them. So I think student support is very important.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicola. And I wonder, Abood, if I could ask you, you talked about in Oman, you have the college system. How is quality ensured then across, in terms of online learning across these different providers? Abood, you're on mute at the moment.
Right. Thank you again. Well, just to comment very quickly on inclusivity, I mean, I think it can only make inclusivity better. I mean, with all the challenges which Yusra has said in terms of inclusivity, but online can only make it better because there are some disadvantaged students in villages where they cannot come to towns, and even some female students who cannot travel. This would open opportunities for them to engage in higher education. In terms of quality, in Oman, we are very structured in terms of approach to the quality, and recently the Quality Oman Accreditation Authority has approved a qualification framework for all the degrees in Oman. And so I think probably a little bit different than the other colleagues is that all the requirements of, I mean, we are governed. I mean, we don't have probably, and we are not governments, we are not regulators here. We are governed by what has been established as what is a degree in Oman. Of course, with the Oman qualification framework now, the degree is much clearer what a degree is and what the outcomes of a degree and a master's degree and a PhD as well. So I think we still have to stick to most of the requirements in the campus delivered degrees, but we have to add to that to make the online degree more credible. I mean, of course, infrastructure, bandwidth, support, student support, which gives them, I mean, we know that the attrition rate normally in online degrees is quite high compared to the normal campus in-campus study. And so, honestly, I mean, the question of quality is that the student who has gone through an online degree probably is much more prepared, honestly, if he's completed his degree, to real skills. And even as we know, of course, in the future, most of the jobs are migrating online. So a student who has completed a degree online and has got the skills of working online and the ethics and the patience of working online, I think he could be an excellent employee for some particular sectors of work. And so there could be areas where online degrees could, I think, exceed the campus degrees.
Fantastic, Abu. Thank you. Some really important points there, especially about potentially the kind of disciplines which would be really kind of pushed forward by the online world. And Mohammed and Michelle, before I come to you, I just quickly want to invite Mohammed and Islam, who both join us from Al Amin International University in Egypt. And Mohammed, you made the point originally when you first joined the conversation about how this impacts rankings, which to an extent it includes measures of quality. So I just wondered if you and Islam could maybe reflect on your experiences about online learning and what it means to have high quality and inclusivity in the online learning experience.
Well, thank you for that, for the opportunity. I'll tell you what my concern is. Perhaps I wasn't too clear in my earlier projection. I've worked in universities in the United States, in Egypt, and in Lebanon, and quite often the decisions that were being made into having an online program or having a specific proportion that is taught online. My concern is that these were not guided by empirical evidence that says if we do 50% online, we're still going to have a graduate who does as good as we do in the routine setting. So I like online. I've taught an online degrees in the US, and during COVID, we all did a good proportion of stuff online. But I think my concern is just we're not putting enough research into making sure that our decisions into what proportion is being done, what disciplines would work for that. So what I would like to learn is that during the period of COVID, did we have some good quality research that says if we go online in specific routes, in specific disciplines with specific percentages, do we know it? So this is something I do not know at this point.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think that's a really important point about the kind of sector as a whole and online learning. If it is to continue to grow and become quality and inclusive, we need research actually to back those strategic decisions up. So that's really important. Michelle, I'd just like to invite you on your opinions about high quality and inclusivity within online learning.
Well, I think we are living an epoch of a paradigm shift, whether in teaching or learning or assessment of teaching. So it's not easy. We need more time. We need more years. We need more experience in this. What I can say that we have to look for what online courses can give that the campus cannot give, and what campus can give in teaching, learning, and assessment that online teaching cannot give. So I think we have to analyze more and more the situation, because we cannot go through a one side way, I think. And this is, I think it's important to see on the ground what is the quality of this education. And I think we need more time. But what we are living, it's a shift. It's a shift.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, paradigm shift, but also really trying to think through the distinctiveness, I think, of what it means to have an online experience. And then finally, Mohammed, I'd like to invite you, first of all, to reflect on the issues of quality and inclusivity, but also to lead open the final discussion point about how the metrics and how we could actually think about evaluating the quality of online. So what kind of metrics would we use to think about assessing whether this online degree is good or not?
Thank you very much for these questions. Honestly, any quality in our life should be build a culture. So online culture, quality is very important to build in any university. So there is a steps we should take into success and to achieve the quality of online degree. This is from my point of view. A leadership of the institute or university should believe in the online degree, that the online degree we can achieve a lot of skills, not only face-to-face achieve skills, also the online. The other thing should be revise our strategic plan to put some pillar or directions related to the online and to separate the capacity of knowledge online degree in the university or institutes. Also, we need training the staff. Still the staff, I think, below our expectation using technology. Now technology is upgraded and updated weekly. So we need to be faster and we need to be track the change in technology. Beside online, there is mobile learning, there is electronic exam, many things we should be separate the quality and the culture of the online. Also recruiting the staff. I think we need to revise the recruiting of staff. We need to select the staff. They have a passion, a willing, a readiness, self-efficacy toward using online and should be believed. Because now long life learning, any institutes put this in their mission or vision, long life learning. But long life learning will not achieve unless all the faculty and the student and the university have a vision toward using online, because now all the courses, all the training, they use online. Now they are maybe using the metaverse also to deliver the virtual environment to the student and to the faculty also. So I think this is the step to separate the quality, to build the quality education between brackets online in any university. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that point. And just quickly, Nicola, you made a comment in the chat. So from a metrics perspective, you measure retention rates and completion rates, and you also measure quality using satisfaction surveys to give feedback from students. So a combination of maybe some objective measures, but also some subjective measures as well to really show about what students think about the course. So on that theme about the metrics perspective, Yusra, maybe I'll invite you to give your thoughts on any ideas or metrics you think that can really measure. You've given something there about. I'll let you explain.
Okay, so I was just thinking, there were a couple of points actually. The first was in response to Dr. Mohammed in particular, actually, completely agree with all the points he's raised. I think fundamentally, I do think we need to go back to the curricula and make sure that it is online friendly. We cannot expect to deliver the same material or the same content just using a different tool and expect it to work just as well. So I think there does need to be, and we've touched on this before, there does need to be a bit of a root and branch review of what it is that will lend itself, and as Michelle there says, what will lend itself more feasibly to online learning, which areas will be more beneficial to be taught using in an online world. I don't think this is viable everywhere. In all honesty, actually, I think undergraduate programs in this part of the world still benefit from being face-to-face. And I say this after 7 years experience now in this part of the world. The students are not really ready for independent learning coming out of high school. They still need transition period. I've worked in the UK before, and I can draw some comparisons. And I think in this part of the world, we still need them to be immersed in a university feeling and to really take on independent learning. So there are other challenges there. But in terms of metrics, the point I was making on the chat, just so that I don't have to talk so much and you don't want to hear me so much, but it's to see the impact of online learning on career progression. You know how we measure employability post a traditional degree? Are we measuring, career progression, promotion, or, success at work, whatever it is, whatever metrics we decide to do, are we measuring that post an online degree? And I'm not sure if we are actually widely, at least, if there are any, large scale surveys that, as Michelle says, gives us that data that we can start using, data to inform our decision making. I always talk to colleagues here about DDD, data-driven decision making. We've got to be relying on, and the data isn't available at the moment. So that's what I was thinking.
Fantastic, Yusra, really good. Two key points, I think, from there. First of all, actually, and a very important point to consider is the cultural basis and readiness and preparedness for online learning. This may actually impact potentially any kind of future ranking where there's certain markets or geographies in the world where you don't yet have the culture embedded of online learning or the preparedness for going to that. But some really good points there also linking to what Mohammed and Nicola have posted in the chat as well about measuring employability and career progression as a way of thinking about a metric to evaluate the efficacy or success of online learning. And there's some good stuff there, Nicola, about the fact that many of your students are actually already in work. But you measure progress through salary increases and internal surveys. And it would be interesting to see how an exercise like that could be potentially rolled out sector-wide. I know employability rankings, just to think about what you were saying, Mohammed, there are a few employability rankings out there. I would say that some of them are methodologically unsound or unstable. They tend to just basically say that, well, if you go to Harvard, you're going to have good employability opportunities, which of course seems obvious. So it doesn't tell you much about, again, Nicola, you made that point earlier about the journey traveled, about what each individual university is doing to take a student from the position they start in to hopefully what is going to be a beneficial career. Michelle, I'd like to invite you to offer your thoughts on metrics, especially how we can measure and evaluate online learning.
We are on the way. So how to measure, it depends on the disciplines also. So it's what can measure with a mathematics or scientific disciplines. It's other things like humanities disciplines. So it's not easy to find out how to measure. And this is one of the most difficult issues that we are facing right now in online courses.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's really important, and also to consider, and certainly in the UK, different disciplines have a different rate of progression into careers and into different salary bands. So we probably have some data here that shows that humanities graduates do tend to start off on a slightly lower salary than compared, say, engineer or an accountant. So there are those differentials. It doesn't mean that people are not making progress or are not achieving their own personal targets for the career choices they make, but it could be reflected differently according to different disciplines. So yeah, that's a really important point there, Michelle. And Mohammed, Aboud, to ask you whether you have any ideas about those metrics that can be used to evaluate online learning.
Honestly, I think most of the metrics used to evaluate the in-campus learning could be applicable to an extent. Of course, you need the quality of the student experience, the teaching, the support given to students and the staff development program given, and the resources available, the online resources, and of course, again, with the university comes the quality of research. I mean, all those different areas would be, I think, applicable as well to online learning. But also, I think, as far as accreditation is concerned, because when you talk about ranking, ranking is where many students go to when they want to select universities. So I think there are other issues regarding, for example, credibility. I mean, a student who studies specialization in an institution online, it could be a very good quality program. But if that specialization does not lead to a decent job with a decent income, I mean, we've already spoken about employability, but I think the affordability and the relevance of the degree in the market, especially in the online market, probably are the things which need to be considered.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Aboud. And finally, if I could invite either Mohammed or Islam from your perspectives in terms of, again, measuring and the metrics that would underlie a potential ranking about online degrees. I think, Mohammed, I know that you are a ranking coordinator at your university. So, and Islam, maybe you both have some insight on this issue.
Okay, I have to agree with Hamad and Michelle about something important. We need to do further research with respect to the students' engagement level during the online sessions. It's really very important. We have to put, we have to be realistic, actually. From my experience, during the online sessions, a big portion of students might not be engaged on an appropriate level, actually, and this definitely will affect the learning outcomes expected. And I believe that we need to work more with respect to studying and doing some research with respect to student level engagement level during online sessions. One of the metrics that we need to focus on, the level of engagement during this, because it's not just a professor who just giving some information in one direction. There must be engagement, there must be discussions, this must be evaluated in the right way.
Sorry, sorry about that. And yeah, Mohammed, I was just saying, as a rankings coordinator and someone who's probably fairly familiar with metrics that exist in things like the World University Rankings, do you have any thoughts on the kind of metrics that could be useful for evaluating online programs?
Well, thank you very much, and I agree with my Dr. Islam, my co-ranking.
I think Mohammed may have just frozen. Mohammed, I think there's an issue with your connectivity.
I think the tricky thing here hello, can you just, I'm on a hotspot and I keep on getting those calls and I keep on getting cut. I apologize for that.
No problem. We did miss what you just said, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, so I was just saying that in terms of metrics and things to measure, I would think there would be some things that are discipline specific. So if I'm teaching, for instance, and working with colleagues in the EU on an online pharmacogenomics program, so some of the things that you would measure are specific to some of the skills that you would have in such a program, the ability of a graduate to do specific experiments in a certain way. But also there are some things that are so some of the things, the ability to carry out a certain experiment or do something. There are some things that are flat across disciplines, so the ability sometimes to articulate some ideas and other things. I think whatever measure that the program has, I think I'm usually concerned when a program does not have a measure. If the program has a measure and it is tailored, I think this is a good thing. The key thing, in my view, the problem is that when programs do not have measures, or they rely solely on subjective measures that think of what does the student thinks of him or herself and what they have learned, which is good to know, but I wouldn't say it's the best metric to have in this case. So there are some things that are more solid, and also the infrastructure that you would have to deliver these things, having an IT that is dedicated to that and that can help you with that. All these things can be of help. So yeah.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's very, very insightful from a metrics perspective. This has been a fantastic discussion, and we've actually got 4 minutes left. So just a very, very final question. I'm quite interested because the World University Rankings, for example, that we run offers, one of the metrics is about internationalization outlook. And I think it'd be interesting just to gather thoughts on this, because Nicola, I know your courses probably have quite a lot of international students on them. But we've got representation here from Bahrain and Egypt and Lebanon and Oman. And I wanted to ask you all, when you have your online programs, is the expectation that your audience and your students will largely be from your own country, or will they be from across the MENA region, or will they be beyond that? It would be good just to get that perspective on how international you think your online programs could potentially be. So Michelle, I'll quickly start with you.
Yes, thank you. I think as we see right now in Lebanon, at least, I don't think we have like many courses that would attract from international students right now. But we are on the way. Sure, we are going for this way, but till now, I don't think so.
Okay, that's great to know, Michelle. Thank you. And Aboud, from Oman's perspective?
I mean, Oman, of course, is interested in overseas students joining, and probably that's one way to improve recruitment overseas. But Oman itself is quite a wide country, from south to north. And so similarly, I mean, I think the internal market would be of utmost importance as well.
Fantastic. And Yusra or Mohammed, from Bahrain's perspective, what do you feel about that?
I mean, I can give you my perspective from where I'm at. I'm newer to Bahrain than Dr. Mohammed, so he can give us more of a perspective. But what I'm seeing is that it will predominantly be a local population, but it will help with international partnerships. At the moment, international partnerships are quite difficult because of the geographic distance, etc. So I think this will open up more regional as well as international partnerships. So PNE projects will become more accessible rather than actually attracting international students per se in the definition of, international. That's my answer. But maybe Mohammed can help on this.
Thank you, Dr. Yusra. Definitely, beside what you said exactly, Bahrain, we can attract people from GCC country. Also, if we offering unique program, academic program, we can in the future attract international students.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mohammed. And finally, Mohammed or Islam, from your perspective in your university, is it mainly national or regional, or do you think international as well?
I don't know if Dr. Islam, do you want to go first, or do you want me to take that?
No, go ahead, Dr. Mohammed.
I was thinking, we certainly, our university is very invested in internationalization of our programs and getting international students at some point. But I think we still need to take this with considerations of the country's profile. Egypt is 100 million people, so the current focus is to satisfy the national needs. We'd love to have international students, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to be losing points because I cannot satisfy or don't have enough people internationally enrolled in my program. So this has been a general concern in overranking, I feel, with countries, with the case of Egypt, where the local population is really huge, I think. So I think it's good to have international contribution. This would help with discussions, online discussions, certainly be a good thing. And there is a wider opportunity for people to contribute to online programs without having to travel. But at the same time, as I mentioned, I don't want to be penalized for not having a lot of international students because my national need is just so huge.
Thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, really important point to play in terms of how we think about the role of internationalization in any future rankings metrics. So it's just 10 o'clock here in the UK. So thank you so much for your contributions today. I think it's been a very rich and interesting discussion. Fantastic to get a regional perspective as well as all your national perspectives as well. I hope we meet again soon in some capacity, but I wish you all the very best for the future. Mohammed, quickly, you've got your hand up there. Or not? Maybe not.
Nope, just clapping, just giving us a little thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. All the very best, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.